Hello everyone. How are you doing today? Today we're going to be comparing UK and Canada. Okay, we're going to be looking at speed, pay, exams, settlements. So if you're a physiotherapist choosing between the UK and Canada, you are really choosing between speed and long-term payoff. Okay, both countries actively recruit physiotherapists, but the registration process, visa pathway, timeline, and earning potential are quite different. So let's look at registration and licensing for the United Kingdom. Okay, the regulator for United Kingdom is HCPC. As a physiotherapist, you don't require any licensing exams, but there's a process of credential assessments and, of course, language tests. Um, these things are not really complex, but you need to have your documents complete. And because UK is very straightforward, they have a list of documents that request for, and then you give them those documents. For Canada, the regulator is CAPR. Okay. They have licensing exams in Canada, written and clinical exam, which from 2026 they will be merging together to offer a virtual process. So you'll be able to do the Canadian exam from wherever you are. Um, the registration process is multi-stage because after the general Canadian process, you still have a province process. So if, for example, you want to go to Ontario or British Columbia, or you have other processes to follow there. So Canada assessment is really thorough, and you have to be ready for that. The typical timeline of UK is between 3 to 6 months, even though these days they say they are having high traffic. So registration can happen alongside job applications. But in Canada, the time frame is still about 18 months to sometimes it can even take up to 3 years, depending on how prepared you are. So that's why it's important for you to watch videos like this so that you can know how to get yourself ready so you don't spend 3 years trying to move to a country. And then, of course, in Canada, you have exams and working with the provinces. Then let's look at the comparison when it comes to salaries. The typical UK physiotherapy salary that's annually is between £31, £31,000, sorry, to £55,000 because most physiotherapists are between the NHS band 5 and 7. Um, the private sector may pay slightly higher, but the income is stable, predictable, but get ready for your tax if you're working in the UK. Canadian physiotherapist pay is typically that's the annual pay is typically between 70,000 Canadian dollars to 95,000 plus Canadian dollars. You have the opportunity to work in private clinics, hospitals, sports, and all that. And it may even go higher depending on who is paying you. So there's a high income potential in Canada even though the process may seem a bit more expensive, and also it depends on which province you want to work. Then when we look at the visa and migration pathways, for the United Kingdom, you have the health and care worker visa. And this visa is very good because all you need to do is search for a job, and if you can get an employer, an approved employer to sponsor you, then it sort of like gives you the advantage to apply for this visa. So you also have the opportunity to bring in your dependents with that visa. Then for Canada, of course, you have their express entry pathway and their provincial nominee programs. Permanent residency is always the focus of Canada, and it's very easy for you to get your citizenship. It's family friendly. Everything is really clear when it comes to long-term settlement. So if we look at the cost, the risk, and the effort, when it comes to UK, there are lower upfront costs, no licensing exams, relatively lower financial risk, relatively, and it seems to have a faster return on investment because you get to settle in faster and get to work faster, but that really depends on your individual situation. For Canada, you have CAPR assessment fees, you have exam fees, You have potential retakes in case you don't pass, so you might have to do the exam again, and that means more money. Longer in period of processing, so you might not be doing anything. There's a higher financial and emotional investment. So Canada is really something you really need to think through. Now, which should you choose? Choose if UK if you want to relocate fast. If you want a simpler registration process and you know you are thorough, so you have the documents that will be required of you. And then if you need overseas work experience quickly, I know many people that went to the UK first and then from the UK they moved to Canada or to some other country. So it's like if you want that international work experience fast, then UK might just be the option for you. So it can be like a stepping stone country. And then you choose Canada if you want higher long-term income. Primary residence is your priority, and your family also is your priority. You can afford the exams and the waiting periods. Then go for Canada. So, like I said before, it really depends on your individual situation. So, the real mistake that people make is not about whether they choose UK or Canada, but knowing what you are giving up. What are the trade-offs? If I go for UK, what am I really giving up? And if I go for Canada, what am I benefiting from? So you really have to make up your mind what exactly you want to achieve, what your priorities are to be able to know which of the countries to choose, because there's no wrong or right country, you know. It's like speed versus income, ease versus long-term reward, exams versus no exams, and all that stuff. So that's the purpose of everything physio. Like I said before, we give you clarity before commitments. So with all this I hear now, you can already start to figure out, okay, is this really what I want or what I don't want? And we hope I hope I'll be able to help you further like we always do. And remember, if this video helped, then please like, subscribe, and share. And you can let us know what you would like to know more about, which countries you would like to know more about, or what details in the process you would like to know about. Have a nice day.